I bring you inspiring conversations with change makers, social entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who are making a difference. Whether you're looking to boost your impact measurement, learn from innovative projects, or find fresh ideas to transform your work, you're in the right place. Welcome to today's episode of the Make an Impact podcast. Today I'm joined by Lucie. Lucie, would you like to introduce yourself to the guests, please?
Yes, so my name is Lucie Cunningham. I am based in Ireland and I'm the founder and the CEO of a social enterprise not-for-profit called the HomeShare.
Thank you. And could you tell us what the HomeShare does?
I would love to. We match people of different generations to live together for mutual benefit. So typically, an older person who might be living on their own, they may be feeling a bit vulnerable, a bit nervous. They may be feeling lonely or socially isolated. Their family generally are quite nervous that they might be living on their own. So they offer free accommodation to somebody younger than them, usually a professional who is either struggling with the cost of accommodation or they want to save up to buy their own home. So they live together for mutual benefit.
Wow. It's like me living with my children. There's no mutual benefit.
Oh, I was going to say the benefit is on their side, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. So how did you come up with this idea?
I always say, unfortunately, I can't take credit for the idea. The idea of home sharing started in America over 50 years ago by this amazing lady called Maggie Kuhn, who was involved in a movement called the Grey Panthers. And it was a movement in America, which was, I suppose, like the suffragettes maybe in the UK, trying to get more rights for women. And then it snowballed onto intergenerational living and cohabitation. So I heard about home sharing about 10 years ago on a radio interview. And because at the time I worked in the home care sector, I enabled older people with carers coming into them every day to help them with their personal care needs and a bit of company and help around the house. But these people were on their own for 21 hours of the day. So when I heard about this model, the home share, I thought that's absolutely perfect. That's going to fill a massive gap and a massive void. So I went off and did a lot of research. I went out to the UK actually and met with a lady called Elizabeth Mills. She is the chair of a charity called HomeShare International. So I met with Elizabeth, who was very generous with her experience and her advice. And I met a couple of HomeShare programs in the UK as well. And I put the idea up my sleeve for a few years and got a bit of money together. And I took a big leap of faith. I left my full-time job and set up the home share.
I love the journey there. And I love the fact that you're quite different to a lot of social entrepreneurs where they don't take that giant leap of faith. They do it gradually as wean themselves out of their full-time job and into their social enterprise. So you were obviously feeling very confident about this choice.
I was, and I remember at the time saying to some people, and even to this day, and I wouldn't recommend this to anybody, I was just a bit crazy enough to do it, but I always said to myself, there is no plan B, because I was that confident that it was going to work, and I was that passionate about it. I was like a dog with a bone. I still am. Yeah, this is going to work, and I'm going to keep hounding the Irish government and the HSE until either they get a barring order out on me or we collaborate. It's all or nothing. My granddad had passed away and he had left a little bit of money to my children. So I said to my children, can I borrow that money, please? Which I have paid it back eventually. So yeah, it was all or nothing. I had to give it 100%. I couldn't do a full-time job and do this in the background. I had to throw myself into it. So look, I was very lucky that I did have a little bit of money behind me that I could sustain that for a few months. And yeah, so luckily it paid off. And look, obviously we are not for profit. So obviously all the we pays the income we generate, basically it pays for us to continue, pays our salaries and pays for us to continue the work.
The next question I have then is about the last 8 years. What's been the biggest achievement for you over that 8 year period?
Do you know, I think the thing that I love, and we often hear it every day, is I suppose home sharing 8, 10 years ago was unknown in Ireland. It's still quite unknown in the UK as well. But it's so great that if myself and my colleagues are talking to someone and they'll say, "Oh, I heard about home sharing," or if we're having a conversation with someone, on the street, and for some reason we speak about home sharing, they'll say, "Oh yeah, we know about that." So it's, oh my God, that's amazing. Like the word is getting out there. I suppose one achievement I was happy with was on a bigger scale was I presented the concept to the Irish government in 2017, and within about 15 months, the Irish government had written home sharing into national policy. I think it was just good timing, and because the government were writing a policy on housing options for older people. So I think it was quite timely. But honestly, I think my greatest, if I was to look back at our greatest achievement, it's every day when we speak to our householders, as we call them, generally the older person, or it could be somebody who is living with a disability, either a physical disability or an intellectual disability. So when we talk to them and we visit them every month in their homes, so when we speak to them or the sharers and just hearing from them firsthand the difference that home sharing has made to their lives, that for us will always be our greatest satisfaction out of that. And it's so humbling. And just for us to be a small part of that it's amazing. It gives us the feels every day that keeps us going to want. That's why if the number of people we have who home share, it's sustaining our salaries. It's like we want to keep going and get bigger and bigger, not to get bigger, but to help more as many people as possible.
Yeah, it's all about the impact, the difference that you make into people's lives. So it's really good to hear that you're still very grounded in the day to day, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah, because we get phone calls every day from families who are burnt out. Usually they're working full time and they just feel like they're being pulled in every direction. And I was the exact same myself. My dad lived with dementia, and I was always worried about him living on his own because I was worried about him when I was at work. And of course, I was working full time and I sing very much a single mom. And I felt like I wasn't giving 100% to anything. When I was at home, I was worrying about my dad. When I was at work, I was worrying about the children. And it was just, and of course, thinking about yourself, you come way down the pecking order as an individual. When we speak to family members, like even a couple of hours ago, I was speaking with a lady and her mum is living with dementia, and the family, they're all taking in turns. So the amazing thing about home sharing is that suddenly family members, they visit their parents because they want to visit them, not because they have to. They have to check in or they have to go to the shops for them or they have to put the bins out each week. Yeah, and so it's as if they're going back 10 years when their parents were more independent. But I think the real beauty for me, there are so many benefits, but one huge beauty and benefit for us is that 83% of our householders, whose average age is about 87, but 83% of them have told us that since they home shared, since they opened up their home to somebody, they have 83% have a greater sense of purpose in their life now, which is amazing. I was telling a group of people yesterday, the oldest householder we had was 103. She was telling me that at my age, I should be in a nursing home in a rocking chair waiting to die. But instead, I'm still at home in my own home and I am enabling a younger person to go to university because I'm giving them free accommodation. So basically, it's mutually beneficial. So the older person or the person who lives in the home, they offer free accommodation. And in return, the younger person offers 10 hours a week of company, help around the house, shopping, going off getting their nails done, going to the cinema. We had a match who went to Japan on holiday together last year, and they might go on weekends away. So they become buddies, they become friends, and they both appreciate each other because they both need each other. The older person needs or wants the younger person there in case they had an accident or had a fall at night time. They're not going to be lying on their bedroom floor for 12 hours until they're found. And then the younger person, they get affordable, cheap accommodation so that they can either save money for their own home or they can save up to do the masters that they wanted to do or save up to go traveling the world. So they both have something that they need, but something they can offer in return.
Amazing. It sounds so simple, and yet
Yeah.
so few people do it.
I know. It's because maybe 40 years ago, there was always a granny or a granddad in the house, always. When the children came home from school, there was the older adult there, and there was that intergenerational cohabitation. And everybody really gains a lot from that. It keeps the older person young, it gives the younger person empathy and insight into what life is like when they get older. But because cost of living now, most people have to go to work. So there's nobody at home anymore. A lot of people, even we see it, a lot of older people now, their children may have had to emigrate, or there might be first generation Irish in Ireland and they've never met their grandparents. So that relationship between the younger generation and the older generation is often missing in modern society.
Definitely. As I'm very much into impact measurements. So my next question is, how do you measure your impact? I know you've mentioned there about 83% had an increased sense of purpose. So there must be some way that you've tracked and measured that. I'm quite interested to know how you're measuring all your
Yeah,
impacts, because there's a huge amount for each of the younger people, the older people, the family members, etc. So would love to hear more
exactly.
about what you do.
Yeah, so at the moment, until we hopefully get some meaty research done, we are doing good old surveys. Now, we also have a CRM system that we track people if they had a fall or if they've had a hospital admission. But we also have a survey. We conduct a survey towards the end of every year as part of our annual report. If anyone is interested, all of our annual reports are on our website. But we conduct a survey and we ask so many questions on the survey. For example, why did you want to home share in the first place? How many or have your falls decreased since you started home sharing? Because we know from research in Ireland that people who live with somebody else are 44%, the risk of a fall is 44% less if they don't live on their own. We also asked them how many times they've been admitted to hospital. And then we asked them how satisfied they are with their life now since they started home sharing. And then, as you rightly said, yeah, we also have very different questions for the sharers. So some of our stats then, just from last year, as I mentioned, 83% of our householders said they have a greater sense of purpose. 50% have had less falls. 42% have had less hospital admissions. 100% of them told us they have a greater sense of happiness, basically, since they started home sharing. We also ask our home share participants for testimonials because we always say, I could tell you home sharing is the best thing since sliced bread. I could tell you the grass is blue, and you go, oh, okay. So we always encourage people to write testimonials on Google so that people can read for themselves from people who have home shared. All that feedback is amazing as well. People say, oh my God, it's changed everything. It's mum or dad want to stay at home. They don't want to move into long-term care. So thank you for enabling this. 50% of our sharers have told us that they have saved money and they've moved on to buy their own forever home or they're in the process of it. It's all on our annual report, but that's a very kind of crude way for us to quantify the impact. But until we can get proper meaty stats and research done, that's what we're doing. Also, based on the reduction in falls and hospital admissions, we have our return on investment. So for every euro the government, if they do, and hopefully they will, but for every euro the government puts into HomeShare, they would get €1.53 return on investment. And that's not even including the use of emergency services. That's not including the reduction in social isolation and loneliness. It's not including the reduction of payments that the government make to people who are on low income and need assistance with their housing. So that's the very, very minimum. And that's purely based on hospital admissions and falls and nothing else.
Wow. Yeah, I can see that there's a lot of benefits there. Yeah, I can see that there's a lot of economic value for the government there, just like you're saying about the health services, and there's so much in there. And there's a lot of data out there around if you reduce loneliness, then people have better health as well. And then you've got all the housing benefits on top of it in terms of people actually being able to have their own home, and the impact that then has on the rental sector and different things. And there's
Exactly.
huge.
And even like the circular economy, using underutilized homes, like 67% of Irish homes are underutilized. So there's a lot of houses in Ireland where, there is just one person living there, especially because in Ireland, I suppose because of our past, home ownership is a huge thing in Ireland. Say on the continent, it's not. People rent. Whereas in Ireland, but I think in the UK as well, owning your own home is a big thing.
Yeah.
So when people's children fly the nest, and if a spouse passes away, there's just one person left, and they don't want to move. They don't want to move from their neighbours or their community. And I always think in Ireland at the moment that there's a big push on what they're calling right sizing, basically downsizing. That's not a good thing, in my opinion, after the age of 70, because we see it for people who've been living in the same house for 60 years and they might have a diagnosis of dementia or cognitive impairment, and they don't even recognize their own house even after 60 years. So what chance do they have if they move house? They wouldn't know the neighborhood. So it is important for people to stay living in their own home. And I suppose to give them that option, the affordable option, and the dignity to make the choice that they want to make and to stay living in the house where there are marks on the wall, where they measure their children's heights over the years, all those little things. But then obviously the clever thing would be to make use of the empty bedrooms for their benefit.
And in terms of really showcasing what the whole model and the social enterprise is delivering for the entire community.
Because the average age of our sharers is actually 40. So Anne moves in with Mary, who's 87. But it's not just those two people that it benefits. It benefits Mary's family because they're not worrying about her. It obviously benefits Anne and maybe even Anne's family, but it also benefits the neighbours because suddenly the neighbours don't have to worry about Mary, who's 87 and living on her own, and she's had a couple of falls. And how will we know if Mary is on the floor? Suddenly the neighbours are like, oh, this is brilliant. This is fantastic. It has that ripple effect. And then it's great, obviously, for the local GP because Mary isn't going to be visiting as much, and the local hospital. It has that ripple effect.
In terms of future plans, what would you like to see happen for the HomeShare?
I would love to see HomeShare as like a household name, like home care is. 30 years ago, home care wasn't really a thing. It was really down to families, whereas now a lot of people have carers popping in. So I would like to see home sharing as being recognized as an absolutely viable option, not for everybody, but for a lot of people. And for the government to put the same amount of resources and support into home sharing as they do with other housing or even social care support. In the UK, there are maybe 20 home share programs. There are about 20 countries around the world that have home share programs. And there's a charity based in the UK called HomeShare International. And I've been very lucky enough to have been accepted onto the board of trustees. So we're always looking for recognition from the different governments and from Europe that home sharing is really a very safe, affordable option that governments really need to consider.
Why do you think they don't back it more?
I think they're afraid. I think they're afraid of it's new, although it's not new, it's 50 years old. And home sharing has been in the UK for over 25 years. But I think they're worried that it's relatively new for them, and they're afraid, I think, in a lot of people's head, the safeguarding. What happens if something goes wrong and the person won't leave that? I think that's the biggest thing. I think they're afraid that if they say to people, oh, maybe look into the home share, and then if there is an issue or a problem, the country will turn around and say, well, you're the one who supported this, and look what happened to my mum, which is totally understandable. But obviously, we have safeguarding policies and processes in place to minimize that. We have never had a case where there has been a safeguarding issue against the person. We have had, and look, we're nothing but transparent. We have had, I'd say, 5 cases out of 500 where we have had to ask the sharer to leave because they broke the rules. For one person, because they had an overnight guest in, which is not allowed. One person broke that rule and they were gone. They literally didn't stay another night in the house. And then a couple of other times where sharers came back drunk, again, breaking the rules. But they know the rules before they enter into it. In my experience with home sharing and working in the home care sector, home sharing is a lot safer because the person who moves in, they build a relationship with the person they live with. The person becomes like their granny or their granddad, and they build up a really special bond. And they know if they mess up, they're back paying 1,000 a month in rent. Not that that's the reason why they don't break the rules, but it's just another layer of, listen, you have a really good deal here, don't mess it up. But obviously, they don't want to. They built a really strong relationship. And usually if a householder does move to long-term care or if they pass away, generally 9 times out of 10, the family say to the sharer, do you know what? We are so appreciative of you. You enabled mom or dad to stay at home. We are so happy for you to stay living in the house until the house is sold. We've had sharers who've been over a year living in the house after the person wasn't there because they've built up that relationship with the family as well.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Where can people find out more about the home share?
So we are all over social media and generally the home share. So the is generally in caps, and that's because it's an acronym for together helping each other. So it's together helping each other, but the home share. Our website is thehomeshare.ie, and they can find us on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, a little bit on TikTok, although I'm allergic to it.
So you're pretty much everywhere.
Pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
I think we even have a channel on YouTube, but I don't really use that. We're going to have to start.
You'd get some really good video testimonials, I think.
Exactly. And we were very lucky a few years ago. Virgin Media, they did a 5-part TV series about us called, I wasn't too keen on the name, but they called it OAP B&B. But people can find those episodes on our website under the media section as well. It's just get the tissues out because it is, and they actually did it, they used it on Gogglebox as well. Actually, it was really cool.
Oh, amazing.
But it's just laugh out loud, get the tissues out kind of TV. That's fabulous.
So you're famous.
Oh no, I wouldn't say that at all. Thankfully, I wasn't in front of the camera. I was behind the camera because nobody would have tuned in otherwise.
Yeah, you never know. Next time it'll be you in front of the camera, maybe. Is there anything else that you would like to share before we finish?
The other thing is we have another option as well called Help for Housing. because we had so many people who were coming to us who worked nights, like nurses, doctors, police, and they couldn't commit to being in the house overnight. So we are so bespoke that people, it's like an a la carte menu. People can pick and choose so that every home share arrangement is totally bespoke to them. But look, anyone who is interested in home sharing, I would encourage them to go on to another website, homeshareinternational.org. Like I said, HomeShare International is like the voice of HomeShare, or they could go on to this website and see, is there a local HomeShare program in their own country?
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Lucy. It's been really lovely talking to you today.
Thank you, Heidi, for having me. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Make an Impact podcast. I hope you found today's conversation as inspiring and thought-provoking as I did. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with others who want to create positive change. You can connect with me on LinkedIn and learn more about my work at makeanimpactcic.co.uk. Until next time, let's keep making an impact in the world.